Oh, we're live. Hi, everyone. Dr. Tom O'Brien. Nice to see you. Welcome to our Facebook Live. If you're out there, give me a little tweak or something so I know that I'm not talking to myself. I do enough of that in my life, but I'd rather do it consciously. So if you can see me, or if you can see me, you can hear me, please let me know. Give a little holler. There we go. Oh, thank you so much. Well, here we go. Today's topic is about autoimmunity and pain. So first, let's talk about, hi, Dwayne, nice to see you. They're nice to see you here. Thank you. What do we mean by pain? Well, we know the obvious things, joint pains, headaches, migraines, things like that, muscle pain, back pain. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks, Wanda, thank you, and Judy, thank you. Everything's great. Thanks, Judy. Lisa, thanks for the little smiley hearts. Thank you. That's really great. It really feels good. Then I know I'm not just talking to myself, right? But there are other types of pain also, such as fibromyalgia. When your muscles are just aching, you just don't have the energy. That's a whole different type of pain. And my good friend, Dr. David Brady, did a whole summit on fibromyalgia about 1.5 years ago. And when you listen to the experts there talking about, oh, my honey's watching from Switzerland. Hi, honey. And Dorada, hello from New York City. Thank you so much. So fibromyalgia is another type of pain. Thank you. That we're going to talk about. So any type of I'm going to center mostly on physical pain. Monica Buffalini. Ciao, Monica in Italy. Nice to see you. Thank you so much. I'm actually coming to Milano. I think it's the end of next week, somewhere soon. It'll be there. And yes, Lisa, neuropathy, thank you, is another type of pain. That's numbness and tingling, and it can get much more severe and be actual shooting pains or pains in your feet, very common in diabetes. There's actually a really good study on neuropathies, and these are people who had EMGs done, which is when they're measuring to see if the nerves are damaged, the big nerves are damaged. People have arm pain, neck pain, neck pain, arm pain, hand pain, and they run the test to see if the nerves are carrying the message, and they're fine. They're just fine. All of those people, they ran a test, they ran a study on, I think it was about 45 or 50, my gosh, it was a few years ago I read it, but somewhere around 50 people with that. When they checked them, they did epidural nerve biopsy, which means that they punched out some skin. They took out a little piece of skin, a little bit of tissue right underneath it, looked at it under a microscope to see how many nerves were there. And when you look at the epidermal nerve fiber density, meaning how many nerves are in this measured amount of tissue, from celiac patients, and then you looked at people that have neuropathies, and they did epidermal nerve fiber density that did not have celiac disease, what they found was that and you see the pictures of the nerves in a person that didn't have any neuropathies, and then the picture of the nerves of the patients with neuropathy that also had celiac disease, you see that there was less than a third the number of cells, the number of nerve cells, not nerve cells, I'm sorry, I'm just a little nervous. I gotta calm down. Let me calm down. The number of nerve fibers in the epidermal nerve punch biopsy in celiac patients that had neuropathies compared to people that were not celiacs and did not have neuropathies, the epidermal nerve fiber density was less than a third. They had less than a third the number of nerve fibers just under their skin, which is why they had numbness and tingling, is because it was a potential side effect from having the sensitivity to wheat. And when they put those people on a wheat-free diet, 50% of them, their numbness and tingling was gone within 2 weeks. 50% of them. So what's the mechanism for that? The mechanism is that if a person has a sensitivity to wheat, wheat then is gasoline on the fire, causing more inflammation. And when they just reduce the inflammation, even people that have been suffering with peripheral neuralgias, the numbness and tingling in their arms or their legs, even those people, when they got the main gasoline on the fire for them, got it out of there, 50% of them, their numbness and tingling was gone. 50%. So even with the damage that had occurred already, there was enough tissue functioning normally that when you got the inflammation out of there, the nerve tissue was carrying the message well enough that the numbness and tingling went away. So that study just tells us that sometimes, and in my clinical opinion, most of the time, chronic pain is due to an inflammatory condition. Most of the time there's inflammation that's setting it all off. Corrine is asking me to talk about DMSO. Well, we'll see if we can get... and Sarah says, I have pain right now. It sucks. Doctor wants me on some medications. I'm not taking it. Gluten and dairy free. So it depends on what the trigger is for the pain that we're experiencing. But for the vast majority of our conditions, the vast majority... So if we can get this big picture concept first, the vast majority of people with chronic pain or recurring pains is because of an inflammatory process going on. The cells are on fire. So the question becomes, where is the inflammation coming from? Hello, Susan. And hello, Laura in Washington State. So where is the inflammation coming from? And some of you have heard me say this before. I'm going to say it again. You know, when you've got a problem that you're dealing with on a recurring basis, when you're dealing with this problem, it's kind of like you've fallen over a waterfall and you've crashed into the pond below. You know, when you swim up to the surface and you're trying to spit the water out, you know, and you're trying to stay afloat in this pond. Well, it may be the pond of diabetes, or it may be the pond of numbness and tingling or peripheral neuralgias, or the pond of neck pain, or the pond of low back pain. It may be, it doesn't matter what the pond is, but you're in the pond of this condition that you're trying to stay afloat in. The problem is the waterfall keeps falling into the pond, so the water's very turbulent, and you're having a hard time staying afloat. You're having a hard time functioning when you have this chronic pain. And we're all trying to just feel better, you know, and get this pain reduced. So everybody's looking for the life jacket to stay afloat in the pond of peripheral neuralgias, or in the pond of fibromyalgia, or in the pond of migraines, or in the pond of neck pain or back pain. We're all trying to stay afloat with a life jacket with the least side effects possible. Great. I mean, really important to do that. And if you need the meds, you take the meds. You always take the meds. Hello from Alberta. That's Kathy Stannis. Thank you, Kathy. And Lauren and low-fat diet, suggestion for Susan. That's a good suggestion. Low FODMAP diet, not low-fat diet, low FODMAP diet. So we're trying to stay afloat in this pond. So once you get a life jacket on, you have to swim over to the side of the pond, get out of the water, walk up the hill, walk back upstream, and figure out what the heck fell in the river that carried you downstream, and eventually you fell over into this pond. In other words, what is the environment that you're in that's contributing to this pain that you have? Now, there are some conditions where this doesn't relate directly. For example, when you've been in a car accident, you've torn some tissue, or you had an athletic injury, and the tissue is damaged and it has to heal. That's a different kind of pain. But even in those pains, even in those kinds of pains, the lower the inflammation that you have in your body, the quicker you feel better. The quicker your cells can regenerate new cells. And we're just starting right now. I haven't announced this yet, but I'm going to do it here. We're starting our new adventure of interviewing world experts. And it'll be sometime a year from now, probably, or next year anyway, when we'll launch this. And we're going to talk about how do you heal stronger, healthier tissue than what you had before. whether it's before the accident or before the degeneration wore your cells down. So we're going to talk about all that, and we'll do some Facebook Lives on some of these concepts and have some of the guest speakers coming in this year as we dial this down more. Hello from Israel. It's 2 a.m. here. Yes, it's 2 a.m. where my wife's in Switzerland, so thank you so much for being here. We'll try and make it worthwhile. And yes, Lisa, I'm talking about root causes. And Amanda in Toronto, hello. And Danuta in New Jersey, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, guys. So when you're suffering with pain, you always have to ask the question, where is the inflammation coming from? And the more you can deep dive into looking for where the inflammation is coming from, not where is the pain coming from, but where is the inflammation coming from, the more likely you are to be successful quickly. And there are many ways to answer the question. Carolyn, thanks so much. There are many ways of answering the question, where is the pain coming from? Where is the inflammation coming from? One of them, shameless plug, is for the book, The Autoimmune Fix. This book lays it out in great detail. That's why we won the National Book Award with this one. And please, if you haven't read it, consider the investment in getting it. I promise it'll change your life. If it doesn't, you can write to me. I'll give you a refund. I think we make like $1.12 or $1.18 on a book. So, this isn't going to pay college tuitions. I'm not doing it for the sales. I'm doing it to carry the information out to the world. So it's on our website, theDr.com. We'll put a link here for the book, and it'll route you directly to Amazon. But by coming through our site, there's a bunch of downloads you get that helps you to understand this better. So that's why you go through theDr.com to order the book. And if you want to go to Amazon directly, fine. But consider getting the book. It's also on audio now. It's also on audio, so you can get it that way too. Hello, Barbara in Texas. Yes. So where does the inflammation come from? And it's our environment. And if you've listened to some of these Facebook Lives before, you know again and again and again, I'm like a broken record talking about this, that we have to reduce the toxic exposures that we're exposed to so often, because when you cross a threshold, whether that toxic exposure is mercury or whether it's gluten or whether it's dairy, whatever, the most toxic substances, the most common cause of inflammation in your body is what's on the end of your fork. That's the most common cause. And yes, Michelle writes, heal the gut, heal the pain. When I focus on my gut, bone broth, and all the many supplements good for my gut, my pain gets better. Bad stress days at work, debilitating pain the next day. So Michelle touches on a topic there, which is about emotional stress. We'll get into that. And I want to talk a little about healing the gut and how do you do that. So if you've heard some of these before, or if you've had a chance to read, shameless plug, The Autoimmune Fix, you know that in developing an autoimmune disease, there is a trilogy. The trilogy is a genetic vulnerability to that particular condition, an environmental trigger that sets it off, something from the environment, meaning something outside of you. And the most common environmental trigger is what's on the end of your fork. That's outside of you, and then it comes into you. And then intestinal permeability, the leaky gut. That's the trilogy in the development of autoimmune diseases. Oh, Melinda, you're very welcome. Thank you for the feedback on helping you find the cause. Thank you. And hello, Dawn in San Jose. So that's the trilogy. So healing the gut is an important component to reducing the pain for most types of pain that you guys get, that we all get. Most types of pains have a gut imbalance as a contributor, causing the inflammation on the fire, which triggers the pain syndrome that we're suffering from. I mean, that just happens again and again and again. So when you've tried dealing with the pain directly and it's not helping, by the way, no one has a deficiency of Tylenol or a deficiency of Advil or a deficiency of aspirins, whatever it is. No one has a deficiency of these. Mary from Texas says, already gotten off all the pain meds I took for years through Autoimmune Protocol and targeted supplements. Always interested in new info. Thanks for all your help. Congratulations to you, Mary. So sometimes it's necessary to take the NSAIDs, that stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That's Tylenol and Advil and aspirin. Sometimes it's necessary, but just taking one aspirin and you cause intestinal permeability, and Advil and Tylenol. So although it may help in the short term, in the long term, if you create more of the leaky gut, intestinal permeability, you're throwing more gasoline on the fire long term. So we have to be aware of that. If you need the life jacket, you take the life jacket when you need it, but then you have to deal with the damage that you don't feel. Nobody feels when they have a leaky gut. People feel the downstream effects when you've crashed over into the waterfall, into the pond below, and now you feel the effects, but you don't feel them. You don't feel the leaky gut. So anyone that's having to take pain medications, it's much safer if you do a leaky gut protocol. So let me give you the summary of a leaky gut protocol. And you can go back to previous Facebook Lives where we really explained all this in detail. I'm just going to give it to you quick and dirty, the down and dirty on it. So first, applesauce. Go back to my Facebook Live on how to make the applesauce, what to add to it. Applesauce, 2 tablespoons twice a day. Increases something in your gut called intestinal alkaline phosphatase, which is a pain reliever by itself, but also heals leaky gut, heals intestinal permeability. Next, root vegetables. Eat at least 1 root vegetable a day. Vary the root vegetables because the fibers of the root vegetables feed the good bacteria in your gut. When you feed the good bacteria in the gut, they get stronger. When you don't feed the good bacteria in your gut, they die off, and the bad bacteria rear up their ugly heads. So root vegetables every day. Third, Google prebiotics and, Google list of prebiotics. And here comes the list. You'll see there's artichokes and bananas and avocado. You can see there's a whole bunch of normal foods. You don't have to eat brown rice and sprouts every day. There's a whole bunch of normal foods, and you have 2 prebiotic foods from the list and 1 root vegetable a day, every day. Next, probiotics. So that was prebiotics, now it's probiotics. And you go to the store, Whole Foods or natural food store, and make sure to get organic always, if you can, get organic. Pasteurized vegetables, non-pasteurized vegetables, fermented vegetables. Get sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, fermented beets, curry flavored. Just get whatever sounds interesting to you, fermented vegetables, non-pasteurized. And you have a couple of tablespoons every day. Because each vegetable, when it ferments, you're producing hundreds of strains of good bacteria. That's what fermentation is. And when you eat it, you're inoculating your gut with the good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. So you get a couple tablespoons a day of fermented vegetables. And if your kids don't like fermented vegetables, put the spoon in there, get the juice, and put the juice in their mashed potatoes. Hide it anywhere you can. Put it in the gravy. When the gravy's all done and you're putting it in the bowl to put at the table, just put a couple tablespoons of fermented vegetable juice in there. They can't taste it, and you don't have to taste it for it to work. That bacteria just has to get down there and feed the good bacteria in your gut. So those are the foods. Then get the GS packs, the gluten sensitivity packs. These are packs, and if you take 1 pack a day. If you're 125 pounds, it's 1 pack a day. If you're more than 125 pounds, if you're at 130, 140, it's okay. Maybe you take 1 pack twice a day, every couple of days, and then 1 pack a day most days. If you're above 150, it's 1 pack twice a day. If you're closer to 175, it's 1 pack twice a day. It's very safe, but to take more than you need. But between 125 and 175 is 1 pack. Not quite twice a day. So it's 175 is where you go to 1 pack twice a day. So between 125 to 175, I've been taking 1 pack a day for 3 days. I'll take a 2nd pack today. And there's 6 pills in there, but those 6 pills are 22 different nutrients, all that trigger the genes to help heal the gut. all activate the genes, either to put down the inflammation or kick up the anti-inflammatory genes. So you take the GS packs, 1 pack once or twice a day, depending on your weight, all the foods I talked about, and then the colostrum, GS Immuno Pro, the most potent colostrum on the planet. You want to know how potent this stuff is? This is the exact product that 3 countries in Africa license as the first treatment of choice that they subsidize, the first treatment of choice when you're diagnosed with HIV. They give you this colostrum, this exact colostrum. It's GS Immuno Pro. It's on our site, theDr.com. You'll have the links here so that you can look at it. So it's gluten sensitivity packs and the colostrum. With that, there's one addition. Now, you've heard me speak before about vitamin D and how important vitamin D is. If there's only one blood test you do every year, it's not cholesterol, it's vitamin D. Much more important in the big picture than cholesterol levels. The cholesterol levels, a lot of marketing that has us terrified about it. But vitamin D, every cell in your body, literally every cell has a receptor site for vitamin D. There's only 2 substances that have a receptor site on every cell of your body. One is thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is the thermostat on the wall of your house that controls the temperature of the furnace, how the furnace works. And at night you turn it down, cool down the house while everybody's sleeping, and in the morning it turns up automatically to keep you warm when you wake up. That's thyroid hormone in your body. Every cell of your body needs thyroid hormone. Every cell of your body needs vitamin D. Those are the only 2 substances. And you've heard me say before about vitamin D, when you want to heal the gut, you take the capsules, because that gets down there, and then the vitamin D is in the area of the gut to turn the genes on to heal the gut. But when you want to reduce inflammation, the capsules will work, but they're not as effective as when you take drops. You take drops that absorb under your tongue, boom, it's right in immediately. It's on the highway. Your bloodstream's just a highway. So it's on the highway going everywhere to turn off genes of inflammation, turn off genes of inflammation, turn off genes of inflammation. How do you know how much vitamin D to take? You get a blood test, and the blood test, if you're in the US, the normal range is 50 to 75 nanograms Ng per milliliter, Ng per ml. That's the goal, is to be between 50 and 75. Most labs say that 30 is normal. No, it's not. You just don't have a diagnosable disease at 30. But we want optimal ranges that keep your body strong and make sure that you're turning on the genes for anti-inflammation and reducing the risk of autoimmune diseases. So the goal is 50 to 75 nanograms. If you're in another country, they use different measurements. They don't use nanograms per milliliter. So all you have to do is Google, convert nanograms per milliliter to nanomoles per whatever the marker is in your country. Google will bring up the chart, and you just type in what yours is in your country, and it'll show you what the comparable number is in nanograms per milliliter. You say, oh, okay, it's at 34. Oh, that's too low. Dr. Bryan said between 50 and 75. Okay, so I need to take more. So you take more. And then within 2 months, then anytime you're taking vitamin D, stop taking vitamin D for a few days, 3 days beforehand, so that you're not just measuring how much vitamin D you've taken, right? So you stop 3 days beforehand, and then you get your blood drawn again, and you see, after a couple of months, is this dose enough to get my blood level where I want it? And you'll find out. Sometimes you have to do 3 or 4 tests, and they're like $50 or something for the test. But you have to do a few tests to find out what the dose is for your body to get your body where you want it, right? So that's vitamin D. Good. So I see that my team is putting together some links for you. And Misty is saying it's not all about the blood levels. You're absolutely right, Misty. It's not. It's not. But that is a biomarker you can use that's going to tell you if you're in the range of where you need to be. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's more than this particular Facebook Live is going to give us. So you got the foods, you got the prebiotics, the probiotics, the applesauce, the colostrum, the GS packs. That's a great protocol to heal the gut as long as you also are discontinuing throwing gasoline on the fire. So you have to figure out, and when you read the book, the Autoimmune Fix, and there are many, I believe, I just had a phone call come in, so I'm still with you. Good, good. You guys are still there? Can you send me a little thumbs up or something so I know you're still there? Because a phone call just came in on my phone. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Good. Thanks so much. Good. Okay. So I lost my train of thought with that phone call. Oh, look at that's so cool when you see like boom, 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 boom. Thank you so much. So we were summarizing there about healing the gut and discontinuing throwing gasoline on the fire. That's a critical, important concept. You can't eat the things that aren't good for you. You can't live in the house if there's mold in the house and expect that you're not going to get inflamed every time you take a breath, right? And some of you have heard me say, Dr. Bredesen, who wrote the book, The End of Alzheimer's, and he's reversed over 100, I'm sure it's more than that now, cases, card-carrying Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. And 5 years later, it's gone. Some of them is quicker than that, but there's 37 things on the checklist you have to go through, right? There's all these things you have to go through. But it's gone. So you can arrest anything, I believe. Any condition can be helped. Any condition can be improved on, but you have to stop throwing gasoline on the fire. Dr. Bredesen, I went to him, he says now that the main type of Alzheimer's, there's 5 types, the main type is called inhalation Alzheimer's. Inhalation Alzheimer's. It's what we're breathing. It's going right through our lungs, into our bloodstream, straight up to the brain, triggering all this inflammatory cascade. So, and what's the most common trigger of inflammation? The house you live in. Mrs. Patient, if you go on vacation for a week or so, and you come back, do you have to open the windows to air the house out? You got mold. And so those people especially have to have their homes tested. And so you go online, you look for certified mold inspectors, and there's a national organization. It's in my book. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the organization right now. And you find somebody in your area and you have your house tested to see, is that the trigger? Is that why my kids keep getting recurring sinus infections? Whatever it should be. But so you have to stop throwing gasoline on the fire. Then the Leaky Gut Protocol helps a great deal. But once again, pain is most often, sometimes it's just physical damage, and you need a good chiropractor, or you need a good physiotherapist, a good massage therapist to deal with that sometimes. But so often, it's a inflammatory cascade. It's not that the tissue has been torn in trauma. It's an inflammatory cascade. There is the autoimmune diseases are the end point of an inflammatory cascade that's been going on for a long time. It's called the spectrum of autoimmunity. It's been going on for a long time. So inflammation is a major, major culprit for that. So let's take a look at a couple of the questions here. So let's see. I'm going through. Thank you for all the thumbs up we see here. Tracy, are these foods good if you have SIBO? Really good question. That's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And the thing about that, if you have SIBO, is that you don't want to feed more of the bacteria that's in the small intestine that's not supposed to be there. So if you have SIBO, that may be the trigger that's causing pain for you. That pain can be in your gut, very common, but it also can be peripheral, in your arms or your legs or in your head. It's very common to see. So you have to deal with the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Certainly the supplements, the GS packs and the colostrum are fine, but the fermented foods may be a problem. The prebiotics, maybe, maybe not. It depends on if they feed the bacteria that's in the small intestine that's not supposed to be there. So you kind of have to play with that while you're working to get that small intestinal bacterial overgrowth out and get it out of there. Sometimes it requires an aggressive antibacterial protocol. Sometimes it does. But one of the things that we're learning more about now is the value of a stool test called Viome, Viome. And we're doing a lot of work with them right now, and we're going to be talking more about it probably next week. We're going to, Mary Agnes, let's make a note to talk about the metabolic syndrome, weight, and diabetes topic next week, and Viome, and this research project that they're doing. I'm looking for some people to be a part of this research project. Really great. They're going to do the test for free, and they're going to give you free food and all of that, and for 2 weeks and see. But we'll talk about that in detail next week. So hopefully that helps you, Tracy, with the answer to the question about are the foods good for you if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. The answer is you have to get rid of the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And Marla asked, why applesauce? Well, Marla, you'll have to go back, and there's a whole Facebook Live on it, but there's a number of reasons, but one of them is it increases intestinal alkaline phosphatase, IAP, which is a critically important concept for a healthy gut. Susan says, did you say applesauce has extra ingredients? Yeah, there's other things to add to it. You can add some cinnamon. That enhances it quite a bit. And that's the only one that I really recommend. Sometimes people put raisins in. A couple of raisins is fine. That's not going to harm anything, but it's more sweet than most people need. Dawn's asking, what if you don't have medical coverage and don't have, I can't see the rest of the question. I don't quite know what to say to that, Dawn. It requires more effort on your part, I think. If you've not heard me talk about base hits win the ball game, it's true for all of us. Base hits win the ball game, and that's elaborated on in the book just extensively, with lots of little base hits to do, lots of little things to do at home, lots of things to try that can make a big difference. There's a bunch of recipes in there also, but those are the icing on the cake, right? There's the little things you have to do first at home. And if you don't have medical coverage, it's more important that you operate from the base hits win the ball game premise, knowing that all those little things, they accumulate, and they're going to be what brings you back into a more vibrant, healthy you. So let's take a look for, yes, a couple of people are saying, remember your health is the number one priority here. So I've had that experience before, you know, where people have said to you, Dawn, I'm not suggesting this is your case at all, but in my personal experience, I've had people that said they couldn't afford the care or something and kind of pulled at my heartstrings a little bit, and we've given them some hardship cases, and then I find out 3 weeks later, 2 months later, they're just back from 2 weeks in Mexico, in Cancun. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? What did I just do? Yeah, right? How did I compromise myself and my service for somebody that couldn't afford it, but then they go on a vacation overseas or to Cancun or something? And so that's really shown me that it's more of a priority issue for people at times. And sometimes it's not. And Dawn, your case may be like that, where you know there's no medical coverage and there's not a lot of resources. I get it. That's why base hits win the ball game. That's exactly why I came up with this whole protocol. Base hits win the ball game, and keep learning little things that you can do. The other thing is 1 hour a week. If we all allocate 1 hour a week, that's all. Tuesday nights after dinner, Sunday mornings after church, you know, whenever it is for you. But every week you do this. Every week you allocate 1 hour to learning more about how to be healthier for you and your family. Just 1 hour. Then it's not so overwhelming. I mean, you get my book. You try to read my book all at once or within 2 or 3 days, and then let's see how much you implement. I suggest it won't be that much because there's so much information in there. And a couple of things, yeah, I do this, yeah, but most of it is like, oh, I didn't know that, I didn't know that, I didn't know that. And there's no way to implement all this stuff, right? So you read a little bit every week and then implement one more thing, and you say, oh, look, this really works, this helps. And then eventually you've got it down. Eventually you've got it down. So a couple things I'd like to ask of everyone, if I may. I really enjoy doing these things. I really do. and the feedback we get is really great. Thank you so much. I want to ask that you like the page, because with Facebook there's something about the more likes you get and the more shares you get, that they give you higher rankings, and it makes this information easier to get out. And as you notice, I'm not trying to sell anything here. I'm just trying to give you guys this information. But if you can pay it forward a little bit, just share this link with some of your friends or someone who you think is suffering in pain right now or on pain medications. If they hear this and they get one or two little hints that they try and say, oh, that really helped a little bit, it may encourage them to go forward more. So please share the page, like the page, leave your questions. We review all the questions. We get to them all. We try our best to get to them all if we can. Some of them are, what am I going to do about this syndrome? And that, that's a 2-hour visit, right? You can't answer that question except in generalities, but you give people direction and what direction to go in. So with that, I'm going to say thank you all so very much. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And thank you for all of your great comments, and thank you so much for sharing this information and paying it forward to your tribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.